درود و سلام بر همه شما خوبان و همراهان چاشنی. به اولین برنامه مجازی چاشنی خوش آمدید. اگه قبلا از همراهان برنامه چاشنی بودین، خوشحالم که دوباره اینجا هستید و اگر برای اولین باره که برنامه چاشنی رو میبینید، امیدوارم که در برنامه‌های آینده هم همراه ما باشید. گفتم اولین برنامه مجازی چاشنی تصمیم گرفته که از این به بعد هر 2 ماه یک بار یک برنامه آموزشی مجازی برگزار کنه. برنامه بعدی در ماه ژانویه خواهد بود. یک غذای ایرانی خواهیم داشت و اون برنامه به زبان فارسی خواهد بود. برای این برنامه یک آشپزی دعوت کردیم در اینجا حضور دارن که تخصصشون آشپزی ایتالیاییه. سالهای سال در این زمینه کار کردن، مدت‌های طولانی در کشور ایتالیا زندگی کردن. شف آیزک لاستد. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
و چون ایشون انگلیسی زبان هستن، برنامه به زبان انگلیسی خواهد بود. پس اگه اجازه بدید از این به بعد برنامه به زبان انگلیسی باشه. So welcome to our first virtual Chashni event. Today we have an Italian chef here with us, Chef Isaac Leiste. Please come here. Because of physical distancing, I'm going to go here so we can keep our distance.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure exactly what you said before. It seemed like you said a lot less in English than you did in Persian. But my name is Isaac Leistad. I'm a chef. I'm originally here, born here in Seattle area. Grew up here mostly, but I spent about 15 years living in Italy and working there. And so I've worked in a number of different restaurants there, high-end places, mom and pop places, and had a fair bit of experience there. Today, I'm here just to show you how to make ravioli, how to make pasta by hand. It's pretty simple to do. There's 2 ingredients here. There's a lot of different recipes for pasta. I'm going to show you just the most basic one, but you can, if you get into it, depending on what type of pasta you're making and where it comes from in Italy, it can be all different kinds of flours and different ingredients. So the sky's really the limit there. But what we're doing here is really simple stuff that you already have at home. Normally in Italy, you would be using 00 flour. This is not 00 flour. This is what you would get at your supermarket here. This is an organic all-purpose flour. Works just as good to make pasta. So I've got a scant cup of this, about 100 grams. I'm just eyeballing this. I didn't even measure this, to tell you the truth, but it's about 100 grams of flour. So I'm just going to do this right on the surface here. I'm going to dump this flour right out onto the table and take my egg, and I'm going to use that egg to form a well. So I'm going to put it right in the center of that mound of flour made, and then just push it around and make a well. And I've got extra flour here if I need it, so that's no big deal. So basically what you got to do is just make this wide enough so that you can whack a fork around in there without like breaking the wall of the well here, so your egg doesn't go everywhere. But this goes pretty quick, so I'm just going to crack my egg right in the center. And then the only other thing you need really is a fork. So I'm just going to take the fork and start mixing that flour in. And I'll start with the flour that's on the bottom. You don't want to mix it all in at once because you're going to get like little lumps in your flour. So you just want to get this nice and smooth. Pasta's really got to be a nice smooth dough. So I'm just gradually bringing that in. And then I'll use like the flat side of my fork as a scraper to scrape in more flour from the inside edge of the well here. And I'll just keep on doing that until my fork becomes useless as a scrambling device. So just like keep working that in little by little and like using the bottom of the fork just to break up any lumps that you see. Just keep on doing that until it gets really thick. So that's basically it. this egg pasta you can find all over Italy. Normally, egg pasta is from central Italy because historically, the people in central Italy, they were a little more well off. So they would use eggs to make their pasta. Whereas down south, historically, they were poor people. So they would just be using flour and water or semolina in water. But yeah, so this is a soft wheat flour. A lot of the pastas you actually see that are made that come from Italy, like you buy them out of the package, like spaghetti and linguine and penne and stuff like that, fusilli. Those are all made with flour and water, but it's a durum wheat flour. It's a hard flour. And those are also not made by hand normally. You can have pasta that's made by hand, but the like spaghetti that's made by hand with this type of dough. But generally the ones you get at the store, those are processed through what's called an extruder, a machine that mixes the dough and then presses it through a die to cut the size of pasta that you want. So this is really thick now. Now my fork is useless as a scrambling device. I don't want to waste what's on that fork, so I'm just gonna get a little flour on there and squish it off of there. Yeah, and then this is where you start getting your hands dirty. But I do have a little scraper here. You can also use the fork to scrape this up too. Like you can scrape everything off the table, but I have this handy little dough scraper, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that. Just gonna scrape this right up and free all that off the table. And I'll kind of gradually add this flour in if I need it. This is still pretty soft dough. So basically to get this dough going, you want to create some gluten development in it. That's what's going to help your dough your noodles hold together in the water. So you just want to fold in half, push, then turn 90 degrees, then fold in half and push and turn 90 degrees and fold in half and push and turn 90 degrees. And just keep on doing that basically until it gets quite dense. So yeah, like I mentioned, we're making raviolis today, but you can make so many different types of pasta with this dough. I'm going to show you a number of different pastas that you can make with this dough. And also the other thing is at this initial stage, you can throw like the flour in that's got the lumps in there. Once you've kind of started kneading the dough, like getting your heel of your hand in there, which I'm going to start doing shortly here. You want to not use the flour with the little lumps in it, because then you're just going to be adding little lumps to your dough, and you want that dough to be nice and smooth. So I got some extra flour here. I'm going to use that to kind of dust the surface and roll this out. So I'm just pulling, pushing, and turning. And yeah, when it feels like it's not as sticky anymore, then I know I can use the heel of my hand to put a little more pressure on this. So still just pulling, pushing, and turning, but now I'm going to fold, push, and I'm going to push with the heel of my hand and kind of just push the weight of my body through that dough. I'm basically just smearing that against the marble surface here. And that's just getting all the little lumps. Any lumps that were still in there are now just getting really smooth. So just fold, push, and turn. And you just want to keep on doing that till your dough is like tacky, but not sticky, not so sticky that it wants to like adhere to your hand. And if you ever get anything on your hands, you can just get a little flour on there, rub your hands together, and it should just ball up and you get that off. Anyway, so my dough has pretty much come together now. I'm going to knead it just a little more, just to get a little more gluten development in there. Now I used the whole egg in this dough. A lot of the pastas you see that are made by hand, especially in restaurants, the dough is actually really yellow. That's because they use just the egg yolks in the dough, and that makes it a lot more richer. And restaurants are in the business of making you feel full, so they'll make things as rich as possible. Here you're using the whole egg, so less waste. And the other thing I'm doing here, I'm just At the end there, I'm just bringing it into a ball. So I'm just folding up, pushing and turning. Before I was doing 9 degrees, now I'm doing like, I don't know, 15-degree turns. That just naturally brings it into a ball shape. One thing that you do when you're kneading a dough like this is you're creating a lot of tension in the dough. So that gets really tight. And technically, you know, you can roll it out right now. And I'm going to show you how to do this the old-fashioned way. This is just with a rolling pin. There's still a lot of people, a lot of grandmas that make their pasta with a rolling pin in Italy. If you get a little more into pasta, you can use a pasta machine. I'll show you that. I did bring one just to kind of show you how that works, but I'm gonna go ahead and let this dough rest a little bit. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to just show you the filling for the ravioli. So the filling we're making today is called Ripieno Fiorentino, which is a basically Florentine filling. And it's really simple. And I don't know if you've ever had anything a la Florentine, but basically just means it has spinach in it. And so let's see. The basic recipe here is ricotta cheese. Try and get one that's fairly dry. You don't want to have too much liquid in there. So ricotta cheese is the main ingredient here. So we're going to put roughly about a cup of that in there. And I've got about a half a cup of chopped spinach, cooked chopped spinach that I cooked earlier and I squeezed as hard as I could and try to get all the juice out of there. Because the last thing you want is a watery pasta filling. You put, if it's watery, then that liquid in your filling bleeds through the dough. So we're gonna put the spinach in there. Just pop that in. Some salt. Just make sure this tastes of something. That sometimes that ricotta can be quite bland. I'm gonna put some pepper in there too. And I'm also gonna put an egg yolk in there. So I'm just gonna like quickly get this out. And this is the way I like to separate an egg. I'm just going to dump it right into my hand and let that white gloop through my fingers. It feels really good too. So you can take that home, show the kids. But yeah, pop that in there. I'm using the yolk just because it's a better binder. So it's not gonna add a lot of liquid to this, but it's going to be, it's just gonna help it kind of hold together inside the ravioli. So I'm gonna pop that in there, get that out of the way. And let's see, what else I got here? I got my lemon. I'm just gonna use lemon zest in there. I'm not putting any juice in there. Again, you don't want any filling in there. I'm just gonna wipe my hand off with it. So I like to use microplane zester for this because they're just amazing. So I'm gonna get this, I like to put a fair bit in there, not so much that all you can taste is lemon, but, and a lot of people don't do this with their Florentine filling. I like to put it in there just because it, I don't know, it just brings the flavor out of the cheese. It really makes it pop. So I probably put about half a lemon in there, which is probably about what you need for that. That's going to come through quite nicely. The other thing you want to get in there is fresh grated nutmeg. So this is just fresh, organic, fresh grated nutmeg. I'm also going to do that. I like to put a fair bit in there. Just gives it a nice flavor. It starts smelling like eggnog a little bit. And one last ingredient that you want to put in there is Parmigiano Reggiano. So this is freshly grated. Also grated that on the microplane. That's why it's all fluffy like that. But yeah, I'm going to put about, I don't know, half a cup in there. I'll throw a little more in there. It's always good. And adds salt, adds a lot of flavor in there. So get some of that in there. And now I'll just take my spoon wherever I put that thing. And there it is. And just mix that together. All right, so I don't know. And then that spinach breaks up in there. So you may have had like eggs Benedict, a la Florentine, anything a la Florentine always has spinach in there. It's because Catherine de Medici, who is from Florence, which was the last place I was in Italy. She, in the 1530s, she married Henry II of France, which was a big deal because they were just really successful merchants. It was like the first marriage between a merchant and a noble person. And well, she moved from Florence to Paris to go and live with them. And when she did that, she brought a lot of chefs with her. And that was something that the French had not seen before, Italian chefs. And they brought a number of things to France that the French had never seen before, like spinach, like artichokes, truffles, like the ones you get out of the ground, not chocolate truffles, but so yeah, there's a number of different things that they brought up. Ice cream, gelato was invented in Florence. That was brought to France by the Florentines. And yeah, so basically, yeah, that's why when you see alla Florentine, they call it alla Florentine because the Florentines brought spinach to France. All right, so the filling's ready. I'm gonna go ahead and start actually rolling out the dough a little bit. I'm gonna do it the old-fashioned way, but I will show you quickly, just momentarily, how to run it through a pasta machine as well to get a little, if you ever want to get really serious into pasta making, I'd look for one. Probably get one at a garage sale for really cheap. So here's our dough. It's a little rested. I've got some dough that I made before, but I'm going to go ahead with this because it feels soft enough to go ahead and start rolling up. So I'm just going to, first of all, dust the surface and dust my dough just so that it doesn't stick to my pen and doesn't stick to the surface that I'm working on. And I'm going to take this, just get it right in the center. Oop, get my hand, try and get your shoulders over it and just rock back and forth. Just bring it back and forth. And this is, I'm trying to make it look easy. If you're doing this at home with me, I don't know if any of you actually got the ingredients together and started trying to do this at the same time, but it's not as easy as it looks. You really gotta get going. One of the things you can do, I worked with a lady who would always hit the dough, just hit down on it, which would make a little dent in the dough, and then it actually works pretty good. You get that the pin in the dough, in that dent, and then you just kind of bump that. You make a low point, you bump the high point until it goes low too. And just keep on making sure you got a little bit of dusting on there. I find it easier to push away from myself, so I'll like get behind that and then flip my dough around and do it that way too. And then again, if you're at all feeling like it's sticking to the surface, that's not a good sign. It should always feel like free from the surface. So I'm gonna dust it and flip it and just make sure it's not sticking. And I'm kind of shooting for a rectangle. Like that would be your ideal shape. It's kind of hard to get a rectangle out of a circle, but you know, at the end of this, I'm probably not going to have a rectangle. So you can make fun of me when you get your perfect rectangle. But you want this pretty thin. You want to be about 1 millimeter thick, which is, I think, about a little less than 1/16 of an inch. So really thin. Because especially when you're making raviolis, you got to get it thin. Because when you put the two sides together, it's about the thickness of one noodle. So you ever had really thick raviolis? Probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you just want to get it nice and thin. And the pasta machine does that remarkably well. So if you're going to make a bunch of these things, buy yourself a pasta machine and you can crank them out. Also, I will say if you do make a bunch of them, you can freeze these. Really good to freeze them. But freeze them on a sheet pan with parchment paper underneath and individually. So once they're frozen individually, you can pop them into like I'd say Tupperware boxes. That'll help them kind of protect them from getting too banged up in the freezer. So there we go. There's my, let's see. I do. I can get this a little bit thinner though, really. So my rectangle is not a rectangle. Anyway, so I'm going to show you, a couple ways you can do this to make raviolis. And then I'll show you some other stuff. But let's see. So the easiest way to make raviolis is just to take a strip. I'm just going to cut it with this thing. And basically use it as an envelope. So you want to put your fillings right in the center. So I'm just going to take these two little spoons here and let's see. So I'm going to put the fillings in here. Now you can make these as big as you want. I like to make them, medium size. You can go bigger if you want, but here we go. Just get a couple of spoons and then spoon this on. And then you can make any type of ravioli filling. You can put anything in there. What I would say is if you're going to make a meat filling, cook the meat in the meat filling before you put in the pasta. You don't want to depend on the heat of the pasta water to cook a raw meat filling, unless you're into that kind of thing. Actually, there's some guys that'll put egg yolks in here, and then the pasta water cooks the egg yolks. It's kind of like your over easy egg that cracks open when you open up your thing. Now, sometimes people put egg wash on here. Your dough should be tacky enough so that you don't need that. If you do find you need a little bit of egg wash, go ahead and take a little water. Actually, water works better than egg wash. You can just lightly brush it on there so it's just slightly tacky. Anyway, at this point, you're ready to fold over. So I'm just going to fold this over like this. And then I've created a tube. So now I'm just going to walk down my tube, go from one end to the other, and push. I'm doing a couple of things here. I'm pushing down hard so that I'm making a seal between the two layers of pasta. And it's basically the other thing I'm doing is pushing as close as I can to the filling without actually getting the filling between the two layers. That's going to make sure that I do get a good seal. But as I'm doing that, I'm pushing the air out. So if you don't get all the air out, sometimes you get a little bubble in there. Sometimes that air compresses, it pops a hole in your dough, and then you got like all this liquid in your raviolis. The other thing is, sometimes they'll float prematurely, which isn't that big of a deal if they're fresh like this. But if you're cooking them from frozen and they're floating, then your filling might not heat through properly. So now you've got this. You can do a number of different things. I'm going to go ahead and show you like this. You can just take something like this or a top of a wine glass if you don't have something like this, and just cut that like so. That's one way to do it. These are called mezzaluna, by the way. Mezzaluna means half moon. So it's a half moon pasta. The easier way to do this is to just take your little zigzag cutter here and cut them out like that. So it looks like grandma made them. And actually, I will say that most Italians, if you go to Italy, they do like fancy restaurants, I will say, but at the same time, they love their home cooking. And because most people know how to cook, they're really competitive about how they cook. And I think most of what I know about Italian cooking I've learned from grandmas and people who have learned from their grandma, because people want to cook like their grandma cooks because there's nothing like it. One other thing that some people do, because sometimes these will open up in the pasta water, another thing that they'll do is just take the tines of a fork, just crimp that edge. That way, you spend all your time making raviolis, they're not going to open up in the pasta water. Like that's just to kind of seal the deal. So let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and start the sauce over here. I'm gonna make what's called burro e salvia, which literally means butter and sage. So I'm just gonna heat up some butter over here, and just keep it real low, the heat, and just let those fresh sage leaves. So I got some fresh sage leaves out of my garden this morning. I'm just gonna take that and fry them real slow until they get all crackly, and then it becomes really rich kind of sage butter. So I'm gonna use a half this stick of butter here, way overboard, but I'll probably be using more later. I'm gonna pop that in there. Just let that kind of melt away. Again, low heat, not too high. And I like to throw these in whole because then once they're fried in there, I can use them as like a garnish. It makes it look real nice, and sometimes you can crumble them over the top too if you like it like that. But I like to get that flavor in there, but also get that kind of crispy texture because your raviolis are soft. You get a little bit of a different texture change. So I'm gonna go ahead and just let that kind of melt away. And while I'm doing that, I'll show you other things that you can do with this pasta. So let's see. You've got, I'll pop these over there too. I'll shove these off on a little plate in a second. So yeah, you can take this dough and just cut squares out of it. And you take your square and put a little dollop of your filling in there, right? And then you just fold that over to make a triangle. So I'm gonna fold that over, make my triangle, and push down. Again, I'm pushing down from one side to the other just to try and get all that air out, get a good seal. And then I'm gonna take this, and that can be a ravioli. You can just leave that as a ravioli. You have triangle ones, and be all modern. But basically, if you just take this and wrap it around your finger like this, and push down, get a little bit of a poke hat there. Yeah. And, oops, hold on. Take that down a little more. Starting to spit a little bit. But then once you've got your poke hat, you just fold this outwards, and you get this is a tortelloni. So anything in Italian that has oni on the end, that's just means it's bigger. Tortellini are the little ones, so I can make a tortellini too. It's really simple. Just do a smaller one, and yeah, just less filling. But normally tortellini have Parmigiano Reggiano in there and Parma ham in there. That's the traditional filling for that. And actually, they serve tortellini in brodo, just means tortellini in broth at Christmas time. It's a very traditional thing throughout Emilia-Romagna and Tuscany that they all have at Christmas. It's just like the most simple dish. I don't know why they do it. It's just tradition at this point. So yeah, again, you just take that, wrap it around your finger, fold that over, push down, you get your little pope hat, and you fold this part outwards. So get a little, that's a tortellini, that's a tortelloni. Sometimes they call that tortellacci. It just means big tortellini. Let's see, other thing we can do with dough, just if you take the dough as is, there's a number of different things you can do with it. Let me get a little flour on this because it's a little bit sticky. But you can do different things with this. Actually, here, I'll show you one thing you can do. You can make garganelli. Garganelli is one from Tuscany. You just cut squares and you pop it on a gnocchi board. Get a smaller square here so you create a smaller version of this. And pop that on your gnocchi board, and then this little thing comes with a dowel. So you take that and you roll it around. You just keep on rolling and get those ridges in there. This is actually served more in Emilia-Romagna. They serve this with a duck ragu normally, but yeah, you can imagine cooking, like making these at home. Like you saw how long that took me to make. You know, if you make like 300 of them at home, you know, and that's like one portion. You just imagine like seeing the little guy, the kid in the restaurant in the back corner, like doing that all day long. But anyway, let's see. What else can we do here? Yeah, I can show you what I can do with just the dough. So if you take little pieces of dough, like roll it into a snake, you can cut this up in little pieces. And then I take a little bit of that flour just to make sure that they're kind of coated on the sides. And then you can take this on your, this is gnocchi board. You just take this on your gnocchi board and take that, put it with your thumb and kind of push with your thumb and then let it go. These are called gnocchetti sardi, which means little sardini gnocchis. So they're a type of gnocchi. Gnocchis are normally made with a potato dough. So don't go saying that I don't know how to make gnocchis, but this is one from Sardinia where they use a egg dough to make their things. And this is very similar to orecchiette. Orecchiette is, well, it means little ears. So you can take a little piece of dough, just push it with your thumb, kind of curls up on your thumb. You need to turn it inside out on your other thumb, get these little orecchiette. Those are from Puglia, and they make these with broccolini, like these broccoli, I think it's called broccoli rapier, or rape is actually how it's pronounced. But it's like a wild broccoli, and they just saute it with anchovies and garlic and some chili, and those are amazing. When you make them fresh like this, they just kind of snap on your teeth. They've just kind of got this texture. I don't know if you can imagine like chewing, like biting through a piece of bubble gum or something. That kind of gives a snap to it when you eat them. Fantastic. I'm just gonna check this sauce real quick. Bring that up ever so slightly to boil, and yeah, let's get those crisping up a little more. I will show you the pasta machine now, because there's some things you can do with the strips of dough too. So I've got I've got my little pasta machine here. And like I said, you can probably find this thing. You can probably find a pasta machine at a garage sale for like $20 or something if you're lucky. But they're pretty inexpensive in any case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this through the pasta machine. We're going to put this on the highest setting and pop it in there. Run it through. And actually, if you have a pasta machine, you don't need to knead the dough as much. You can get in there. But, okay. Crisp up a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just letting that crisp up a little bit in the butter. Now butter's going to get a little brown. That's fine. That's exactly what you want. But I just want to get this cooking a little more. I want these to get crispy, but I want to do it real slow. Yeah, it's lovely. But it's really simple. It's the simple things that make Italian food great. Actually, before I moved to Italy, one of the main things that brought me there originally was I was working in the kitchen with a guy from Algeria, and he had he found out I was going to culinary school, and he said, if you're never going to learn how to cook in culinary school. If you really want to learn how to cook, go to Italy, because in Italy they don't care about what food looks like, they only care about what it tastes like. And then he said, if you want to make it look good, just go to France and learn how to make it look good, because they figured that out there. But anyway, so that's actually really good advice for an aspiring chef. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead, run this through the pasta machine. And the way you don't have to knead this, I mentioned not having to knead it, is basically holding that over itself. That, sorry, get a little spinach in there. But holding that over itself, you need it in the machine itself, which is actually really convenient. Way less work. But make sure and dust it so it doesn't stick too much. And then yeah, once you've got it through, you've got a good consistency in your dough, then you can start working the dial. So I'm going to work that down. I usually skip a couple. I usually don't go one for one because it just, you don't need to. But yeah, get enough flour on there and bring it right on through. It's just going to keep getting longer and longer. So you can see how this aids itself to making raviolis. You make a strip as long as this table and just make a bunch of raviolis. So I'm going to go ahead and get it longer. And I'm taking this to a 5. There's numbers, it's all numbered. So I started off on a 1, that's the highest setting. I'm taking this to a 5. I'm going to run it through twice just to get it consistently thin throughout it. If I was going to do raviolis with this, I would run it on a 6 because that's going to get it thin. You're basically going to be able to see through it, which is exactly what you want because you don't want thick raviolis. What you can do here, and also if you roll out a sheet, you can make noodles, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. When you're making noodles, you'll take this and dust the dough, just because when I'm gonna fold this down. This is the old way to do it. The new way is to run it through here and just crank those noodles out. But I'm gonna show you the old way because it's a little more interesting and it works, especially if you don't have a fancy pasta machine. You can do this at home. So you just fold this down like that. That flour, make sure it just shows that you've got flour in between each layer. So the next thing I'm gonna do is cut through this. And I grab my knife real quick. Alrighty. So yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and cut this. Now, depending on how wide you cut this, all the noodles are called different things. So if you cut it, I'm gonna discard that one because I want to have a nice thing. So this is called tagliolini because I've cut it small. Anything ini is small. So this is tagliolini. So it's like an angel hair or something. Just let that stuff go like that. You can put it on your rolling pin here. There you go. Yeah, so tagliolini. Then cut a little bit wider. That's tagliatelle. Or some people call this fettuccine. Depends on what part of Italy you're in. But in the central area of Italy, Florence, this is tagliatelle. So tagliare means to cut. So that is why that's where they get the name tagliolini and tagliatelle. So yeah, just easy to unravel. You just grab that and let it go. And some people dry this out. It's good to dry this out a little bit before you cook it. But usually when I'm making pasta, I'm hungry. So I just I'm very careful when I put it in the water and I stir it, put in little handfuls as I'm putting it in the water so it doesn't stick together. As long as you stir it and you make sure that the water has contact with it before it contacts anything else, the pasta is not going to stick together. Just make sure and keep stirring. Don't let it sit on the bottom of the pot too much. Okay, cut this a little wider. This is no longer tagliolini or tagliatelle. They call this pappardelle. And there is a thought process between these. So like pappardelle, really wide noodle. They usually use really rich sauces with this. So you'll go to Italy, you'll find this usually goes with pappardelle or like with porcini mushrooms. Cinghiale is a pappardelle goes with cinghiale. It's wild boar ragu. So like rich game meats. This usually with like a ragu sauce, regular like beef ragu sauce. Thinner noodles like a truffle cream sauce, something like that. So yeah, you can see I've got like a nut brown butter here. So that's got like some of the milk sauce in there have browned up a little bit. That's going to be very tasty. So I'm going to keep that off to the side. And the sage leaves are very crispy now. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that aside. And it's kind of smell. It's got, well, you can't smell, but it has like a kind of nutty smell to it now. Anyway, so back to this. These are tagliolini, tagliatelle, and pappardelle. So really easy to make. Another thing you can do is freeze these. And to do that, first of all, you want to get a little bit of flour on them. So take a little bit of flour on them. Or semolina. Semolina actually works better because it keeps it just a little bit further away from each other. And you just grab it in the center of the noodles like this. So you've got like equal parts on either side. And then just kind of spin it around like a windmill. It kind of twists the noodles and you can just kind of fold it up and make nests. Put that again, sheet pan, parchment paper, in a freezer. Once they're frozen individually, you can put them into bags or something. But anyway, my water's boiling. My raviolis are waiting to be cooked. My sauce is ready. So I'm going to go ahead and move over to here and cook the raviolis. So I'm just going to do 3 right now just to show you a little plate. We'll get those in. Now, I've already salted the water over here. So there is always a debate about number of cooking things in Italy. One time I was cooking with someone and they said they saw me salt the water before it was boiling. And they told me, what are you doing? Like, oh my God, this guy's fun. And I said, what do you mean? What am I doing? I put salt in the water. I said, no, you never salt the water before the pasta water is boiling. And so I asked someone, she said, no, it's because the salt, they use rock salt when they salt the water. The salt sits down the bottom of the pot and corrodes the bottom of the pot. I think that would take quite a long time. So maybe my grandchildren's grandchildren will be cursing me for ruining the pot. But anyway, when you get these in the boiling water, also there's no olive oil in that water. I don't waste olive oil in water. I just don't think you need it. Some people think that's a great idea. I'm not one of those people. I don't put butter in there, nothing. I just make sure that they're not sticking in there. So I'm going to go ahead, flip this up, and pop these in there. And they only take a few minutes. Just a few minutes. They'll start floating. First, they're going to sink down. Then they're going to start floating. And once they're floating, you're good. Basically, a few minutes. If you've frozen them, you'll need to let them go for another couple of minutes just to make sure that your frozen filling has thawed out and cooked through. But yeah, they're already starting to float now. I'm going to bring up the temperature just a little bit so I maintain my boil. But they're pretty much ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and pop them in the pan with the sage and the butter. And I'll go ahead and put them on a plate here. Maybe this one, it's a little more. My butter's still nice and hot over here. I'm going to go ahead and bring these over. I'm going to use a slotted spoon to take each one out and drain it off. Get a little bit of butter over the top there. So sometimes people put these with ragu sauce. It's also very common. I like the nice flavor of the kind of nut butter, the brown butter with the sage. Just a nice little way to do this. And just gonna pop that on there. I'm gonna get some of those sage leaves in there too because those are really good. They taste good. And maybe just a little extra butter on there. And then, let's see, a couple different things here. Before I shaved up some Parmigiano Reggiano in here, which is the best Parmesan you can get from Italy. And when you look at the price, but just get some of that on there, just a little garnish for that. Also olive oil is good for you. So I'm gonna put just a little bit of olive oil on that plate. There you go. There is the raviolis. This is ravioli with ripiena fiorentina with sage butter, burro e salvia. There you go. Yeah.
Very tasty, very good.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
That's basically it for my pasta demonstration today. I guess you can take this a number of different ways and go with it. One thing I'd be happy to make some raviolis for you. Be sure to contact me if you want some raviolis made to order. I can also do lasagna to order, so I'd be happy to take some orders and deliver it to your home. But if you want to get into making pasta yourself, great outlet on YouTube actually is called Pasta Grannies. And I like this a lot. I like to tell people about it because it's there's a couple ladies from Britain who have been traveling all around Italy, trying to find grandmas to document the pastas and the sauces that they make, and they do a great job. And you get to kind of meet these cute little grandmas and see what they're doing. And the reason they're doing it is because there's, you know, as the world modernizes, these old ladies, these old grandmas are the last ones keeping this kind of traditional life. So they're kind of documenting it so that we can continue to do it. So it's worth checking it out, Pasta Grannies. Yeah, I think that's it for me. Thank you for having me. I hope you enjoyed the pasta demonstration. I hope you got some ideas. I hope you get to try to do this, or if you haven't, I hope there was somebody following along. Hopefully they got to do this too.
They already sent us pictures.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But I hope it really works out. And this is a pasta dish that's very simple to make. It's pretty straightforward and it's delicious. And so hopefully you've learned something here today.
So in the comment section, we have a lot of praises and thanks,
Well, thank you.
and also a couple of questions.
Okay.
So what material do you recommend for pin roller?
For the roll,
Yeah.
for the rolling pin.
Yeah.
Well, this one is I think this is a pine. I think this is a pine rolling pin. This is fine. This is a French version. I really like these. I like the I've also used olive wood rolling pins. Those are nice too. They cost a little more, but for all around rolling pin, this is really good. This is not the kind of thing. Well, I mean, you can use this for anything. This is not like I wouldn't use a rolling pin that's used for like rolling out cookie dough, like the ones that have the handles and the center part moves kind of independent of the handles. This gives you a lot more control, this thing, and you can put a lot more pressure on it. So I would recommend something like this. The Italian ones are good too. They're basically similar here, but they've got two balls on the end. Same kind of thing. Really, really easy. You can do with pie dough too.
I've
So.
seen some made of marble.
I've seen, yeah, the marble ones are good, but I'd say that's more specialized. Like marble ones, most pastry chefs would use because they're colder. It's for like maybe rolling out pie doughs or chocolate for chocolate work, because they don't, it doesn't stick to it.
So the next question.
But also marble doesn't have as much texture. So especially for pasta dough, the wood is way better.
So the next question is, what's the best substitute for sage?
Best substitute for sage? Well, rosemary would work. Yeah, I'd say rosemary is the next closest one that's available pretty much year round. That's a good one to use. You can use thyme. Thyme would be a very good alternative to sage, would be very similar. I think both, or rosemary or thyme. The rosemary might get a little, might be a little more woody, whereas the thyme is softer. So I'd go with thyme over rosemary probably. It'll be a little more subtle as well. I think that's what I would go with.
Yeah, I love sage and rosemary. Those are my two favorites. I'm so excited. Next week is Thanksgiving. I get to use all of them. So Ian asks if you want to put orders now, how do you contact you?
You can contact me at
The link is on our website.
the link is on their website, so you can either.
Your website?
Oh no, on the
It's on
alphabet.
our website.
Yeah.
I mean your personal website.
Well, yeah, I've also got a website. It's isaacleistad.com, and you can contact me through there. But I'm also a glass blower, so that you'll see my glass work there more than my chef work. But you can contact me through there as well.
Yeah, the next question would be, where can you find a ravioli dish tonight in Seattle?
Where can you find what?
Ravioli dish.
A ravioli dish in Seattle.
Kitchen.
Yeah, right here. No, one of my favorite. There's a number of Italian restaurants in Seattle. They're probably struggling right now. One that I like a lot that they make all their pasta from hand is called. Well, there's two. One's Il Terrazzo Carmine, which is a little pricey. Another one's called La Spiga. They're kind of two older restaurants that have been around for years. La Spiga's in Capitol Hill, and I think the Il Terrazzo Carmine is down in First and King, somewhere around that area, down Pioneer Square. But there's also they did move to Bellevue recently too. I think there's Il Terrazzo Carmine in Bellevue too. But yeah, the La Spiga. Or also there's one out in Alki Beach called La Rustica, really good. He does more seafood, but really, really good Italian. Really good Italian. You can probably find raviolis in any of those places.
I think you answered the next question. The next question is, what's your favorite Italian restaurant in Seattle?
Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, there's quite a few. And there's another one I can't think of the name up in Magnolia, which is really good. It's owned by Sicilians. You go in there, they actually do speak Italian. Whereas Carmine, Il Terrazzo Carmine was started by an Italian. I think it's run by his sons. And Carmine died a few years ago. But there's another voice, Salumi, which is down just past Occidental Square. It's owned by, it was owned by Mario Batali's father. They make all their own salamis down there. And I don't know if it's still going on, but it used to be every Tuesday, I think, Mario Batali's mom would be down there making handmade gnocchis. So you'd have to get in line to make sure you got some of those, because they'd have a certain amount of dough for her, and you could go down there and get fresh made gnocchis. But I don't know if she's still down there. Mario Batali had some problems. Yeah. He grew up here, but he hit some I don't know, some sort of scandal or something. So you don't see much. You don't see much of him anymore. No, it didn't have anything to do with his cooking skills. That's true. Yeah, his mom's a very nice lady.
Yeah. So, good one asks, have you tried Persian food?
I've tried some Persian food, but I still have some exploring to do in that area. So yeah, I'm open to trying Persian food. So bring it to me.
So Ian says salumi is amazing. Still, most all of their same folk there for at least 15 years.
Yeah. I think it's actually owned by, they kept it in the family. I think it's owned by Mario Batali's uncle now. I think they sold it to him, but yeah, so it's still in the Batali family. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we don't have any more questions.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Well, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time. I know you're very busy.
Yeah, but it's actually a lot of fun. I'm glad I was able to come. I hope somebody got something out of it, and I feel like
No,
it's
it was
worthwhile.
amazing. I learned a lot. It was awesome. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
you.
I don't know. I just kind of blab, and who knows?
Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
A lot of people watched it, and thanks so much. For
You're welcome.
And
Okay.
thank you.
Are we off the camera now, Ray?
No, not yet.
Say bye
Oh,
first.
thank you for watching. I'm glad if anybody had found this entertaining at all and learned something. That's the most important
I absolutely learned a lot in the camera division.
thing.
I made some mistakes, but I think I learned a lot.
Okay, good. Okay,
So
good.
next time it's gonna be better.
We can just join together and do business.
We should, yeah, we should. I think we could get a series going. Yeah, yeah. See if anybody wants more listens.
All right, so we stop the live. Thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah,
And,
thank you.
See you back in January for Persian football.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving in advance to everybody.